So the true regression line equals x. Don't worry about that initial part. I don't like talking about it that way. We use the least squared regression line of y hat equals a plus bx, which is an estimate of population regression line. B is the slope, A is the y-intercept. We are now going to run a test and an interval on slope alone. So before I write this, and you don't need to write this with me, our equation for confidence interval always starts with what? In words. Okay, there's always something here, then what? So point estimate. You don't need to write this part. And then what always here? In general. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then what? Some extent of standard deviation or standard error. Alright, so our actual slope is beta. What is our statistic value for slope? B. This is what we just talked about. So our point estimate is lowercase b.
What do you mean statistic value?
What is our estimate for slope? Written as is b. Our critical value is going to be t. And then whatever the standard error of our slope is. That's what that means, the standard error of our slope. Now, anytime we have a t, we are going to have a what?
Degrees of freedom.
Degrees of freedom. Now, we have had different levels of degrees of freedom. When we first started with degrees of freedom always equaled what? N minus 1. When did it not equal n minus 1? Chi-squared. So if it was chi-squared for a two-way table, how do I know what my degrees of freedom was? Number of rows minus 1 times number of columns minus 1. What about in goodness of fit? Number of categories minus 1. In all of those, so the only thing that dealt with more than minus 1 is a two-way table. And in a two-way table, why is it called a two-way table? Because we have two what? Two variables. Well, if we are graphing, how many variables do we have? 2. So this is what? What did you just tell me? Because there's two variables. What do you think our null hypothesis is? Oh, okay, our null hypothesis for slope. Anytime we do a null hypothesis, what kind of thing is going to go here? Parameter. What's our parameter? Did I just say for slope? I didn't notice it said it that much. It's written above. Beta. So our claim is going to be that beta what? What do you think? What always has to go here? So what's something that would make sense to put there if we're talking about slope? What's bad for slope? It's not actually bad, but as far as testing something, because that means what? There is no linear relationship. So we're testing, initially, our no claim is that there is no relationship, so we're trying to test to see if there is one or not. So to test the null hypothesis, beta equals 0, we are going to compute a test statistic. I'm going to have to write down here. I'll write it back up there in a second. Don't write with me. Anytime we do this, what symbol is always going to go right here? In general, this is always what? Let's go back to dealing with x bar. What is our equation there for x bar? divided by, continue. What is this? One word. Very generic. Statistic. What is this? So what's going to go here? Which is, what's our parameter? And this whole section is what? Standard deviation. And what did we just say that one's called? The standard error of slope. So right here is lowercase b minus beta divided by standard error of slope. Well, just because we're doing a test instead of an interval, our degrees of freedom is still going to be and then we're going to have three different options for our alternative hypothesis. What do you think the first option is going to be? What's another option? Or and this next section, I'm going to come back to it a little bit more on Monday, but I want to address it while we have notes we're writing. Anytime you get a regression output, like that graph that says the word constant and has a y-intercept beside of it, and then the x and the slope beside of it, anytime that you do that, it usually gives you your test statistic value. And a two-sided p-value. What do I mean by two-sided p-value? Not equal to. So anytime you get that chart that we've been talking about with the constant, the x variable that gives you your y-intercept and slope, again, I'll talk about this more on Monday, it's always going to give you the p-value for a two-sided. So if we want a one-sided test, we're going to what? Divide the what? By.
Wait, why would it be 271?
I'll show you more of that on Monday. We needed somewhere to write it down, so we're writing here, but then
And then what's our main question? It's just T with B when it's